Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session on pre-med advising. We're excited to see a couple of your faces. We're just going to introduce ourselves before we hop into the presentation. My name is Megan Rigney, and I am a pre-health advisor here at Columbia in the Berick Center for Student Advising. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves. Nikki?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nikki Cunningham. I'm also one of the pre-health advisors, also in the Berick Center for Student Advising.
Megan?
Hi, my name is Megan Flaherty. I am the other Megan in the Berick Center for Student Advising, and I'm also a pre-health advisor. It's really nice to meet all of you.
And Maddie?
Hi, I'm Madeline Macy. I am a program manager at the pre-professional advising office.
Great. So we are really excited to get to meet you when you get to campus. But for now, we want to give you some information about how to prepare for your first semester and just a little bit about pre-health advising here at Columbia. So I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. All right, so this is us. We are at the Berick Center for Student Advising. We have a general email, which is preprofessional@columbia.edu, that you can send any general questions to. And we have a very robust website, which is also filled with information to help you. Today, we're going to cover the following topics. We're going to talk a little bit about the advising system here at Columbia and how pre-professional advising fits into that. We're going to talk about being quote unquote pre-med, what your academic preparation is going to look like. So we're going to go through in pretty great detail some of the courses that we offer that meet the pre-medical prerequisites at most medical and dental schools. We're going to talk a little bit about what medical schools are looking for beyond academic prerequisites. And that is going to be more so in the experiences that they're hoping that you come with and the pre-professional competencies. We'll talk about some of the opportunities at Columbia, the exciting things that you can get involved in here that might, be of interest to you as a pre-health student. And then we're just going to give you some tips, right? Things to think about as you're sort of embarking on your first semester and your journey as a pre-med. And then finally, we will leave time for questions and answers. There is a Q&A section as a part of this meeting that you can pop your questions into, but we're going to hold them until the end so that we can gather them and try to answer them all sort of at one time. Okay, so I think it's important for you to know just to start off that you have a full community of advisors here at Columbia. Hopefully, you've already been introduced to your advising dean through the Berick Center for Student Advising. So all incoming students, first-year students, transfer students, combined plan students will get assigned an advising dean within the Berick Center. And that person is there as your sort of first resource. But it's also someone that we hope that you really develop a strong relationship with. They are, generalists that can help you to begin your preparation for whatever it is that you're wanting to study and to really help you to navigate Columbia, which is sometimes can feel like a big place. There's many, many opportunities, but sometimes figuring out where to go for what can be challenging. So your advising dean in the Berick Center for Student Advising is really a great person to get to know because they're so knowledgeable about Columbia and all of its parts. If you haven't met with that person yet, I would encourage you to check your email, check your Columbia email because there's probably an email from them waiting for you, and we'll give you instructions on how to set up a time to meet with them. So then there's pre-professional advising, and the pre-health advising team, the three of us are sort of a part of pre-professional advising. We also do advising for students who are planning for law school or planning for business school, but our pre-health team is really dedicated to students who are planning for medical school, dental school, and other health professions. We are also situated within the Berick Center for Student Advising, and you can meet with us individually. We also do a lot of group programming, that we'll talk about in a little bit. But we we sort of think of ourselves as complementary advisors, that we are someone in addition to your advising dean and your departmental advisors, and you're welcome to meet with us throughout your time here at Columbia and beyond. So you'll also, once you declare a major in your sophomore year, you'll also get a faculty member within your department who will serve as your advisor for your major. If you have a major and a minor, you'll have advising in both of those departments. If you have two majors, you'll have, two faculty advisors. So they're really there to help guide you through that individual departmental major. There's also advisors in the Center for Career Education. We have an amazing team there who helps you to connect you to internships and job opportunities and helps you with resume formation and networking and thinking about all of those things. So and you can meet with those individuals individually, but they also have drop-in hours every day that you can go and just have your resume reviewed. There are also advisors within the Undergraduate Global Engagement Office, and this is the office that thinks about and helps you to plan for study abroad. So if you're thinking about wanting to spend a semester or a year somewhere else, these are the folks to get to know. And then finally, undergraduate research and fellowships is another space where that there are advisors there to help you to connect with research opportunities as well as fellowships, both during your college experience and beyond. So what is it that we do specifically? So one of the things that we do is maintain a robust website, which will really help you to get to know sort of the things that you need to do to be thinking about as you're preparing for medical school. We also have a listserv, and that is, it's called the Pre-Health Listserv, and Nikki's going to drop in the chat sort of a way to sign up for the listserv. This, if you do nothing else after today, sign up for the listserv. This is something, it's our main mechanism of communicating with pre-health students. Lots and lots of great opportunities get posted there, whether it's a clinical volunteer opportunity or a great lecture that's happening or a research opportunity. It's all going to be posted through the listserv. So please make sure that you, sort of subscribe. We also have individual advising, as I talked about earlier. Right now, this summer, we're very focused on helping our current crop of medical school applicants. This is a busy time for them as they finish their applications and embark on their interviewing. So we're dedicated to that population right now. But once you get to campus and you get settled into classes, we really like to see you. So schedule an appointment, introduce yourself, and we can begin that relationship. We also do workshops and programs. So for example, every fall we do a summer opportunities workshop where we introduce you to the things that you might be thinking about, in terms of spending your summer and gaining experience. We bring upperclassmen together for that workshop to talk about the things that they've done with their summers and how they obtained that position, what it was like, what are some of their tips for best utilizing your summers. So that's just one example, but throughout the year, we do lots of programs and workshops. We do a lot of this programming virtually because many of our students that are preparing are not necessarily still here on campus. We have a lot of alumni that are thinking about going on to medical school. So many of these will be sessions like today, which will happen virtually. We have guest lectures. Sometimes we have medical schools come to campus. They want to meet, with students. They want to help you to get to know them. And this is a great way to do that. We also serve as the main liaison with professional schools. So, it's our job to try to keep current with what's happening at Mount Sinai School of Medicine and Northwestern School of Medicine, and making sure that they have a good understanding of us, so they know a little bit more about your experience as an undergraduate here at Columbia. And then finally, we run something called the Pre-Health Advising Committee Application Support Process. And that's really, as you're entering the time when you're going to begin to prepare for your application, which is probably 6 or 7 months before you're submitting. We're working very closely with you to, sort of help you to craft those narratives, to present yourself, to think about the experiences that you have, and and how you want to sort of optimize the presentation of those things. So it's something that we're very dedicated to. It's a really, really laborious application process, but we hope to make it a little easier for you by walking you through it step by step. So what does it mean to be quote unquote pre-med? I think it's important for you to first know that pre-med is not a major or a minor. It's not something that you formally declare. It doesn't appear on your transcript. But really pre-med is just a self-identification, and it tells us and maybe anyone else that you're talking to that you're intending while you're here at Columbia to prepare to go to medical school or other health profession school. Maybe you decide that public health is the area that you want to focus on, or you want to think about a career in dentistry. Those are all things that we can talk to you about and likely require you to take some courses. Pre-med also involves doing a bunch of things, like taking prerequisite courses, getting involved in activities that might demonstrate or help you to investigate your interest in healthcare and medicine, getting involved in activities that might demonstrate your commitment to service. Medicine is a service-related profession, and so it's really helpful to be, sort of doing things that are in service to others. Educating yourself and testing your motivation by exposing yourself to places where doctors and other healthcare providers actually work. Maybe that's in a hospital, a clinic, a research lab. Those are all things that you might be thinking about doing as you're preparing for medical school. And then finally, taking a qualifying exam, the MCAT or the DAT will be something that you'll do as a pre-med student. So your course of study, a lot of students will come in and say, well, what is it? What should I study? What's best for my preparation for medical school? And we really encourage you not to try to put yourself into any boxes, not to feel like you want to think about what you should do, but rather to find out what you want to do. This is a time for exploration. We really want you to dream big, to discover your own interests and to follow them, to not, sort of say, well, my RA told me that I should do this and he's pre-med, so I'm going to follow that path. Really, any course of study is compatible with going to medical school. Some might require a little bit more planning than others. Some might overlap a little bit better with pre-health requirements, but I think it's important that you take advantage of the time that you have here in college and look at this as a time of growth and not just as time to, sort of tick off boxes on a checklist as you, move on to medical school. I think it's also important to emphasize here that there is no set schedule or timeline. There's many different possible paths, and we hope to help you to find the one that's right for you. Most Columbia students or applicants, about 90%, take gap time between undergraduate and medical school. So what that means is they are preparing to go to medical school during their undergraduate experience, but they might take a year or two before going on to work, to go on a fellowship, to do something else as a part of their preparation, and then head off to medical school a year or two later. So a bulk of our presentation here is really going to get you familiar with the pre-med course requirements or the recommendations that are really based on what the medical schools are requiring. Our pre-medical handbook is going to be a great resource for you, and that will really outline a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today, but we think it's still helpful to sort of present them to you so that you can see it and ask any questions that you have. So the pre-med course recommendations are 2 semesters of English, 4 semesters of chemistry with corresponding lab, and that's going to be 2 semesters of general chemistry and 2 semesters of organic chemistry, 2 semesters of biology with their corresponding labs, 2 semesters of physics with labs, 2 semesters of math, and this is generally a semester of calculus and a semester of statistics, and 1 semester of introductory psychology and 1 semester of biochemistry. You might note that we list these as recommendations because one of the things that's important to know is that not all medical schools have the same requirements. Some medical schools say we don't have any requirements at all. You just need to take the MCAT. Other medical schools have very specific requirements and a specific number of credit hours that need to be done in each of these areas. There are some things that are being recommended for the MCAT. So for example, introductory psychology is recommended for the MCAT. So it's recommendations. Sometimes a student might decide I'm not going to take introductory psychology because I took an AP psych course in high school and I feel really knowledgeable in that area. And I have other plans for the time for that, time in my schedule. So these are recommendations and they'll all be things that you're thinking about and talking about with advisors to help you to make the best decisions. So English. Many medical schools will require 2 semesters of English. They're looking for writing intensive courses. If you're in the college, you're going to automatically fulfill this because it's required for the core. You're going to take university writing and literature humanities and contemporary civilizations, and any of those courses will complete the English requirement. If you are in an engineer, you're going to take university writing, and then you have the option of taking literature humanities or contemporary civilization, or you could take another literature course in the English department to round out that requirement. Chemistry. In general, most pre-med students in both the college and Cs should start off with chemistry in their first year. The reason for this is that chemistry is prerequisite to organic chemistry. It's also prerequisite to biology here at Columbia. And so chemistry is really the first course that you're going to take. There is an optional course that you can also take in your first year, which is called First Year Seminar in Chemistry Research. It's not offered until the spring, but it's a 1-hour weekly lecture and discussion that's going to really introduce you to, some of the research areas in chemistry and introduce you to some of the faculty in the department. So if chemistry is a real interest of you, you might find that to be an interesting course that you're able to sort of tack on because it's just a 1-credit course and not a lot of tests and further work. So there's several options for the chemistry sequencing here at Columbia, and we're going to go through them. So option 1 is going to be the most common, and this is for students to start off with general chemistry, and it's going to be a year long. You can say it's 4 points or credits each, and it has a co-requisite of Calculus 1. The lab that you would take would be alongside that, which would be Chem 1500. You can take this in either fall or spring, and depending on how it best fits in your schedule. As it says below, this option is appropriate for all pre-medical school students in CCNCs, regardless of your major or area of concentration. And everyone may register for this sequence. But if students who want to place into a higher level sequence or a more advanced chemistry sequence should take the chemistry placement exam. And the placement exam will be available online from 12:01 a.m. Tuesday, August 27th through 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, August 28th. Nikki, I think is going to drop in the chat the link where you can learn more about placement exams. Option 2 is our second term general chemistry intensive lecture, and this is offered in the fall semester. This is really for students who maybe had AP chemistry and feel pretty confident and they place into this course by taking the placement exam, or even maybe had placed into a higher level, but kind of want that review and have that, 1 semester review. So this course is offered in the fall, and you would take the lecture then, and then you'd follow it by either one of the labs. You can take the intensive general chemistry lab, or you can take the general chemistry lab. After you finish this course, students who have a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam will receive 3 points of AP credit for chemistry. And these AP credits will be really important at some of those medical schools that I spoke about earlier that might be more rigid and are doing that sort of credit counting. So if they say in chemistry you need 8 credits, of, general chemistry, that AP credit is going to help you to fill in that, those missing credits. There are a few medical schools who don't accept AP credit and really want you to take advanced courses if you've had AP courses in order to fill those prerequisites. So, it's something that you need to think about, but in general, we want you to sort of start with the chemistry that feels like it's the best challenge for you, right? We don't want you to repeat material that you've already had, but it just might mean that you would take an advanced chemistry course a little bit later on. Okay, option 3 is skipping general chemistry altogether and starting with intensive organic chemistry. This sequence starts in the spring of this year and then follows, the first semester's in the spring, and then it follows in the fall semester of your sophomore year. This is, again, something that you would have to place into after taking the placement exam. And after successful completion with a C or better in this sequence, if you had a 4 or a 5 on the AP, you would receive 6 points of AP credit for chemistry. Again, these AP credits would be important for the schools that are looking for those credits to be counted. And finally, again, there's a small number of schools who will not accept AP, and they may require you to have the AP credit and maybe take an advanced level course in addition. Okay, so if you started with general chemistry, you most likely are going to take organic chemistry either in your sophomore or junior year. And this is the course sequence. You're going to take organic chemistry lecture 1 and 2. And then there's a corresponding lab that would be each term, right? So you take Orgo Lab alongside Orgo Lecture 1 and Orgo Lab 2 alongside Orgo Lecture 2. And they're both 1.5 credits each. So biology. All students are expected to take introductory biology sequence, even if they have AP or IB credits. That is determined by the department here at Columbia. And biology is normally taken during the sophomore or junior year. I would say most commonly in the sophomore year by pre-meds, because it gives them, if they take that full year of biology as sophomores, and gives them more time to maybe take advanced courses in biology, should they be interested in doing so. So there's a couple of options. Again, the most common option is biology 2005 and 2006. And the lab is 2501. And so you can see that chemistry and biology labs are actually just one semester lab, but this lab is actually equivalent to the year. So most medical schools are going to require a year of lab, and our 1-term lab, because it's 3 credits, would be equivalent to the year. But in organic chemistry and physics, you'll see that those labs are actually 2 semesters. For engineering, for biomedical engineering students, you will be able to use your biomedical engineering labs to fulfill the pre-med bio lab requirement. So you will not need to take an additional lab on top of it. Most pre-medical students will take this general 2501 contemporary biology lab, but there are other ways to fulfill the bio lab requirement. And these will be outlined in the pre-health handbook, and that it might be something that you look at down the line as you're making that decision. And again, as we said earlier, general chemistry is prerequisite to this biology sequence. The second option is for those who are primarily interested in majoring in environmental science or sustainable development or environmental biology. And so this would be starting with the environmental biology first semester course. Chemistry is not prerequisite to this, so sometimes a student might decide to take this in their first year. And then coupling that with the second part of Intro Bio 2006. And again, the same bio lab would be relevant here. It's important to note that this option might require a little bit of self-study of the concepts covered on the MCAT that may have been missed in the 2005 first semester. There's also an optional course for first years in the biology department that's similar to the one that I described in the chemistry department. And this one is offered in the fall. It's called the First Year Seminar in Biology, and it gives you a chance to hear from some of the latest about some of the latest biomedical research being conducted by scientists here at Columbia. So it's a great introduction to sort of some of the research endeavor that's happening within the department and even beyond that. And it's only offered in the fall. So if you're interested, you'd want to register it for this fall. Physics. So there's, again, several introductory physics levels, and your choice should be dependent on your preparation in mathematics and your choice of major. So all C students and CC students interested in possibly majoring in physics or biophysics should probably take physics during their first year. C students are going to be required to do that, but the CC students, that are interested in those areas would be helpful to start off with physics. The first option is not for engineers. This is going to be for college students, and it's General Physics 1 and 2, 1201 and 1202, accompanied by the labs 1291 and 1292. This course is appropriate for all pre-medical students except for C students. C students are going to start with the more advanced physics that we'll describe in just a second. So the next three options are designed for some CC science majors and all engineering students. And students must complete a lecture sequence and choose a lab based on their individual program of study. It's in general for these lecture sequences, for these options, the full lecture sequence needs to be completed before going on to the laboratory. So the most common, I think, for entering engineering students is going to be 1401 and 1402. And, you would start with 1401 in your first term. As I said, this is for C students, and those science students are interested in physics areas. The next option is a little bit more advanced than the 1400, and that's 1601 and 1602. You can see it's 3.5 credits each. It's something that's available for those students who are very advanced in physics and are interested in studying at that level. And then finally, our most advanced sequence is Accelerated Physics 1 and 2. This is appropriate for students with a very strong background in physics and math. And you have to place into this course. And so if you wanted to do that, you would go to the physics information session during NSAP, and take the placement exam. And that's going to be Wednesday, August 28th from 4:30 to 6 in 429 Pupin. And again, this information will be all available on the Berick Center for Student Advising's website area about placement exams. Finally, here are some of the labs. You're going to take the corresponding lab that makes most sense. The 1494 lab can go alongside the 1600 sequence as well. Mathematics. This prerequisite varies by medical school. So some medical schools don't require any math as a part of their prerequisite requirements, but a good number might require a year, and they may specify that that year should be a mix of calculus and statistics. Even schools without a specific course requirement will expect to see some evidence of mathematical competency, and it's going to obviously be required for you to perform well in your sciences. We think the best approach to fulfilling this is 1 semester of calculus and 1 semester of statistics, because there are a few schools that will require both. So calculus, we have several levels of calculus, Calc 1, 2, and 3, and your placement into mathematics, into calculus, is going to be based on sort of your prior experience and some of your sort of AP. So students with a score of 4 or 5 on the AP AB exam, a 4 on the BC, or 6 on the IBHL exam can receive 3 points of AP credit after they complete either Calc 2 or 3. You'll also have to get a C or higher in Calc 2 or 3 in order to receive these AP credits. You will not be awarded AP credits without taking the next level course, right? So in some departments, you might be awarded AP credits just because you got 4 or 5 on the exam. But in math, you need to take the higher level course in order to get the AP credit. If you took the BC exam and got a 5 on that, if you go forward and take Calc 3, and again, get a C or higher, you will get 6 credits of calculus AP credit. The AP guidelines by department are all outlined, in the academic planning guide, which I think Nikki will pop in the chat for you, but probably your advisor has also made that available to you. It's a really great resource, and I would encourage you to get to know it well. Statistics, there are also several different statistics courses that are acceptable, and you're going to choose the one that best matches your own program of study. The 2 most general and common courses are the first 2, Introduction to Statistics Without Calculus and Introduction to Statistics with Calculus. The one that the statistics department says is most relevant for pre-health students is the course without calculus. The course with calculus is more geared for economic students and others. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't count for the prerequisite at medical schools, but likely the one that would be a better fit for you would be the one without calculus. If you're taking a statistics course as a part of your major for something else, so for example, the psych statistics course that might be required in the psychology department, that's fine too. Same is true for biostats for engineers. And again, you can see that there are other options here to fulfill this requirement. Pretty much all of the courses will, in statistics will be fairly relevant. There is one stat course that we wouldn't take, and that's the very first one. I think it's called 1001, because that course is sort of an overview, and it doesn't really do any mathematical problem solving, and so it's not going to be the right fit. Okay, finally, I think we're reaching the end. Biochemistry, many medical schools require 1 semester of biochem, and we have 2 courses in the biochemistry area that would fulfill this requirement. And they have a little bit of different prerequisite course structure and different timing, but they're both cover much of the same material and will be relevant for what you need. Oh, psychology. We recommend an introductory psychology course to prepare for the MCAT, because there is a section of the MCAT that covers it's called biological, psychological, and sociological foundations of behavior. And many of the topics in introductory psychology or the science of psychology will be, sort of relevant for the MCAT. A note here is if you're planning for to be pre-dental, the DAT, the dental admission test, does not have psychology on it. And so it wouldn't be as important for students to take that course, although it's a really great course and I would highly recommend it. Okay, so it's important to know that there are several medical schools that might have individual prerequisite requirements outside of the general norm or outside of the list that we've just presented. It might include anything from additional courses in biology to courses in social sciences. While our general pre-med recommended courses that we just discussed will prepare you broadly for, the vast majority of schools, you will need to consult individual schools to make sure you're meeting additional prerequisite requirements. Unfortunately, medical schools can change these requirements at any time. And so it's just important to keep up. We are trying to keep up as best we can, but it's often, because a student comes to tell me to say that, oh, I heard that the University of Chicago just, added physiology to their prerequisites. And those are sometimes the way that we learn about it. So it's just important that you keep up and check on the schools that you're most interested in as you're preparing. So this is just, again, an emphasis about AP and IB credit. Policies are variable by schools. Most schools will accept AP and IB credit for some classes as long as you've taken advanced courses in the subject area. So for, this is most important for calculus and chemistry. Some of the schools, however, are more rigid and will require the equivalent credits at the college level, right? So instead of saying, okay, we'll take your 6 credits of general chemistry, they may say you need to go forward and take an advanced inorganic course. So, if you have further questions about this, it's certainly a good topic to talk about with your advisor or a pre-health advisor. Okay, so moving on, what other things beyond your pre-medical prerequisites are, schools in the health professions looking for? I think they're looking for you to have an understanding of what you're, sort of getting yourself into. They want you to have explored the field, to get exposure to medicine, to physicians and healthcare providers, and to patients, right? To understand what is the patient experience. So spending some time in those settings. Not only just being there, but really thinking about what you're seeing, understanding what are some of the current issues in healthcare, and really testing your motivation for medicine. There are some schools that are very interested in, sort of moving medicine forward and moving science forward. And so they might be also interested in having you have exposure to research settings and, sort of understanding what it's like to, sort of ask a question, design an experiment, and carry that out to get results and to move the field forward. They're interested in, seeing that your motivation is tied in some ways to your desire to help others. So an evidence of service is something that's also really positive. They're looking for mature students or applicants who have strong interpersonal skills. They're looking for you to, have worked in teams, have maybe stood up as a leader, to have a depth of involvement in the things that you're doing. Medicine is really, a difficult and challenging profession, and they're looking for special people who, sort of want to be taking that initiative and be deeply involved in the things that they care about. They're looking for you to challenge yourself, to look for ways to grow, to step outside your comfort zones, and to be reflective about the experiences that you're having. And of course, they're looking for you to be strong students, and that's going to be reflected in your academic record and in your test scores. But it's not something that we try to focus on. Okay, so connected to this, the AAMC, which is the Association of American Medical Colleges, which sort of is a governing body of allopathic medical schools in this country, sort of came together a number of years ago to sort of try to define, what is it that we're looking for beyond the academics? Like, what are the characteristics that we're hoping and competencies that we're hoping medical schools are going to start with, or medical students are going to start with? Now, while these were defined by allopathic medical schools, we really think it's relevant to all health professions, right? So they're good things to be thinking about, even if you're applying to dental school or some of the other health professions. These are listed in alphabetical order, so it's not to say that the thing on the top is the most important. I would say they're all equally important, but we're going to go through them, sort of quickly to give you a sense. And I think Nikki's also going to drop in the chat a link where you can have a reference for what we're going to present, and it's something that to be really guiding your experiences. So the first is commitment to learning and growth. What it says is it practices continuous personal and professional growth for improvement, including setting and communicating goals for learning and development, reflecting on successes, challenges, and mistakes, pursuing opportunities to improve knowledge and understanding, and asking and incorporating feedback to learn and grow. So I think that what we think about here is, seeking challenge inside and outside the classroom, pushing yourself outside your comfort zones, asking yourself, what are your, sort of strengths? What are the areas of vulnerabilities? And really trying to improve those, right? Thinking about how you can continuously be, on a path of self-improvement. The next two, cultural awareness, and you'll see on the second slide, cultural humility, I think kind of go together. So the first says it appreciates how historical, socio-cultural, political, and economic factors affect others' interactions, behaviors, and well-being, values diversity, and demonstrates a desire to learn about different cultures, beliefs, and values. And then cultural humility says it seeks out and engages diverse and divergent perspectives with a desire to understand and a willingness to adjust one's mindset, to understand the situation or idea from alternate viewpoints, and to reflect on one's own values, beliefs, and identities, and understanding how they may affect others, addressing bias in oneself and others, and fostering a supportive environment that values inclusivity. So I think that, we're really lucky here at Columbia because we have a super diverse student population, and you are going to be pushed to be, sort of interacting with diverse perspectives in the classroom. You're going to be doing this in your seminars in literature, humanities, and contemporary civilization. You're going to be thinking about things from different, and being exposed to things from different points of view. But I think also you can be getting out into our community beyond the Columbia gates, right? You can be interacting with New York City and the diverse community that's here, and understanding, what it might feel like to be, not to have an education, or to maybe be undocumented or a refugee, and what that might look like. You might decide to study abroad, and that might be another way that you are, sort of testing out and building your competence in cultural humility. So those are just things to think about on your path. The next competency is empathy and compassion. And I think this is fairly self-explanatory. We want our healthcare providers to care, and I think what this is saying, it's recognizing, understanding, and acknowledging others' experiences, feelings, perspectives, reactions, is sensitive to others' needs and feelings, and demonstrates a desire to help and alleviate distress. Ethical responsibility to self and others. Behaves with honesty and integrity, considers multiple and/or conflicting principles to inform decisions, and adheres to ethical principles when carrying out obligations, resists pressure to engage in unethical behavior, and encourages others to behave honestly and ethically. So I think this is really hard, one that is hard to assess within an application process, but we really hope that you work to have strong internal sense about right and wrong. It's important not to get yourself into trouble, to really think about making good decisions and choices. A lapse in ethics can really be very have a large impact on your opportunities in medical school. So even when things are very, very stressful, we encourage you to stay on that right path. No grade is worth, sort of having an ethical violation. So, not cutting and pasting, not borrowing from someone else's lab report. It's really, really important that you make good decisions, because, you can recover from a C, a D. I've even had students that, recover from a failing grade, but it's very hard to come back from an integrity violation. So just be mindful and thoughtful about your behavior. The next one is interpersonal skills. And again, I think this is also fairly self-explanatory. I like to think about it as emotional intelligence, right? An ability to form positive connections and relationships with others, and sort of understanding how to behave and communicate in those relationships. Oral communication. This says effectively conveys information to others using spoken words and sentences, actively listens to understand the meaning and intent behind what others says, and recognizes potential communication barriers and adjusts approach and clarifies information as needed. So I think it's really important that physicians and healthcare providers are really great communicators and can articulate themselves well, and can also listen well. And I think that this is what this is getting at. There's lots of ways to be building this, for sure. You can be building it, of course, inside the classroom through your discussion groups and seminars. But you can also be building it outside of the classroom in your student organizations, and, teaching and tutoring, being a teaching assistant. These are all great ways to be developing and honing this competency area. Reliability and dependability. Again, I think this is fairly obvious. You want to do what you say you're going to do, show up on time. And when you can't, communicate, right? So sometimes things go wrong and you have to miss an appointment, or you can't, get to work that day, or your volunteer shift. But it's really important that you communicate honestly, and follow up. And I think that, again, we will all have empathy for busy schedules of students, but when you don't communicate, I think that then leaves us not knowing what's happening. So just be sure to communicate. The next is resilience and adaptability. This is perseveres in challenging or stressful environments and adjusts their behavior or approach in response to new information, changing conditions, or unexpected obstacles, and recognizes and seeks help and support when needed. I'm going to read that again. Recognizes and seeks help and support when needed. I think this is the key here. Being able to recover from setbacks means that you're reaching out to others, right? And reaching out proactively. We have great support systems here. We talked about it, the community of advisors. We also have great academic support through a peer tutoring program and a peer consulting program. We really want you to reach out for help when you need it. It's really about what you do when you're to recover from those setbacks that shows the most about your character and shows that you're going to be able to weather those setbacks that will inevitably be a part of your future. And that's why this is a competency that medical schools care about. Service orientation. And again, I think we talked about this already, medicine being a service-related field, and they're looking for evidence of your commitment to service, and to see that you like to freely help others. Finally, teamwork and collaboration. Healthcare is a team sport. You're going to be working on teams, and these are going to be busy teams. And so they like for you to come in with some experience in that, that you've collaborated with others to, work toward common goals, that you've learned how to prioritize, that you've learned how to understand the strengths and of other team members and capitalizing on that, and communicating with others. And being able to step up as a leader when appropriate, and to, and not be a leader, and sort of follow someone else. So teamwork and collaboration is a huge competency that they're looking for. And again, you can get this in your student organizations. You don't have to be president of the student organization to develop leadership. You can, sort of lead an event, or you can, initiate a small group. There's lots and lots of ways to demonstrate your leadership and your teamwork through many of your activities. Okay, so some of the opportunities at Columbia. So there's a huge amount of student organizations on campus. I don't know the number, it's constantly growing. Nikki, I think there's a link that you can pop in the chat here to show them. I always say it's never, the things even on our website aren't comprehensive, because student organizations are always popping up every semester. A good way to find out about them is through the student organization fair, which I think happens on maybe the first Friday of classes. And it's a great way to meet the leaders there and get involved and add yourself to email lists. But some of the ones that might be, attractive to pre-health students, there's Columbia University EMS, which is our, sort of 24/7 student-run ambulance service, which serves campus and the surrounding Morningside Heights community. Trained EMTs. The CUEMS also offers you the opportunity to take an EMT course and train, and then join the service after. It's a wonderful student organization. It's a busy, service, but you gain incredible experience. And again, we just talked about teamwork. This is a great way to learn how to work on a team. AMSA is the American Medical Student Association. It's one of our pre-med societies here. It's sort of a support group of others that are, planning for the same career that you are. The Charles Drew Premedical Society is our other premedical society. This is a organization that focuses in on supporting students who are underrepresented in medicine, but it's open to all. They do fantastic programming, and it's just another society to be aware of. Students for Health, Education, Access, and Literacy is an opportunity for students to train as health educators and then go into local public high schools that otherwise wouldn't have a health curriculum and run health workshops. And, it's a really, again, a great way to interact with our New York City community and learn how to facilitate, difficult conversations on difficult, topics. There's the Columbia Association of Pre-Dental Students. There's the, Columbia University Science Journal. I mean, it's endless and we could go on forever, but check out the website. Also, there's so many research opportunities on campus. SURF is our summer undergraduate research fellowship that's run through the biology department. It helps to fund, about 60 students every summer in laboratories here on campus and at the medical center. SPURS is, I always forget exactly what it's, summer program for undergraduate rising stars. That's what it is. And that is a similar program to SURF, but it's located at our medical center uptown. And it is, again, also interested in recruiting students from underrepresented and disadvantaged backgrounds. Biology 3500 is a course that you can take that's independent research. And so you can work in a laboratory on campus and get credit for it. And write a proposal for an independent project and spend the semester working on that. Both CC and Cs, both the college and the School of Engineering, have research portals where faculty and others will, post positions and when they're looking for undergraduates to work in their labs. I think Nikki has some links to those portals that she's going to pop in the chat.
Yep.
Those are other great opportunities to sort of engage and learn about some of the research that's happening on campus. Being in New York City is just such a wonderful blessing because there's so many hospitals and healthcare organizations, within a subway ride. We have Mount Sinai Morningside, which is literally right across the street from campus, and many students will become volunteers there. But there are hospitals all over the city, and some that are, we have the Hospital for Special Surgery, which has an orthopedics emphasis. There is Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, which is one of the leading cancer institutions in the nation. There is a rehab hospital, right? So we're just really lucky because of the access to these opportunities. You can also get clinical volunteering in clinics. There are some free clinics that are associated with medical schools that they use students to help to register patients and to get them in the door. You can volunteer for hospice care. You can volunteer in private practice settings, in nursing homes. Shadowing physicians is another way to get some clinical exposure. Service experiences, as we continue to talk about, Columbia Community Impact is our service organization umbrella on campus, and I think Nikki's going to put a link to that in the chat. There's lots of wonderful service opportunities, again, in our surrounding community and across the city, and it's a great way to interact with the larger community. Some of those things might be doing free tutoring, being a mentor to a young person, working at a homeless shelter with soup kitchens and food pantries. The Double Discovery Center is another sort of peer tutoring space or space where you can tutor promising sort of middle school and high school students right here on campus. There are faith-based groups, and many of those have other community service opportunities. So this is just a small smattering of things that you might be interested in getting involved in. Okay, so we're going to end with just some things to consider to leave you with just some things to think about. So we want you to really get off to a good start. Our goal for you in your first semester is to just get settled, to assess your study habits, to see if they're adequate. You know, some students haven't really developed really strong study habits in high school because everything came easily to them, and this might be a little bit of a transition. So we want you to, you know, assess that. Don't be afraid to try new strategies. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. You know, getting settled academically is super important. You want to get off to a good start, which also means you don't have to overfill your schedule, right? You want to get settled, get to know your community, make friends, and you know, and there's plenty of time to sort of challenge yourself. So we said, ask for help if you need it. You know, I think we talked about this already. You know, study with others. Study groups are a really great way to learn. Reach out if you need tutoring early on. And, you know, and I wouldn't say it's just a good way to enhance your learning, right? Visit department help rooms, teaching assistants, go to office hours and meet with your faculty there. You know, it sometimes can feel intimidating, but they can be really amazing resources for you, and they're there to help. So take advantage of it. Yeah, you know, you can see we have a second bullet point that really emphasizes get to know your advisors and your faculty members. You know, really talk to these people. You can just go. They really have fascinating careers. You can go and just ask your, you know, your intro chem professor what he or she is interested in research. You know, maybe they have something that you're interested in. So don't be afraid. Don't hold yourself into your room, and you know, take advantage of the resources that are here. Get to know yourself, be honest about your strengths and weaknesses, work to develop them, branch out, step outside your comfort zones, but also take care of yourself. You know, medical schools want to see evidence that you know how to do this. Medicine is a really demanding profession, and college is going to be demanding, and they want to see that you have, you know, sort of a good work-life balance, that you have good self-care habits, that you sleep well, that you know how to eat, you know, sort of eat, exercise, that you have found a community, you know, that you have that balance in your life, so that you can continue to be well and be successful. Don't get overextended outside or inside the classroom, right? If you join too many clubs and, you know, and sort of make too many commitments, then you're going to have difficulty keeping up with your academics. If you overload your academic schedule, you're not going to have any time to get involved outside of campus. I mean, outside of classes. So, you know, make sure again that there's a balance there. Try to be present, right? So sometimes we see pre-meds come in and they're already thinking about the next thing, right? They're already thinking about medical school and what they're going to do when they get there. You know, college is a wonderful time. We really want you to be present while you're here, you know, and thinking about the things that you're doing, taking advantage of your coursework, reading, you know, taking advantage of the city, you know, go beyond 110th Street, go downtown, go to music, you know, go to, you know, free events in the park, right? There's so much going on. Just be present while you're here. You know, that what goes along with that is don't just check off the pre-med boxes, right? Try to chart your own path, try to discover your own interests and explore them and find, you know, the path that's right for you. Do the things that you love. Okay. And then finally, join the pre-health listserv. We talked about that earlier. Really, really, we can't stress this enough. It's our main mechanism of communicating with you, and we'll really set you up with a lot of amazing opportunities. So I'm sure that there's questions, and I think you've probably been compiling them, so we can, you know.
Yeah, so if the question and answer function is on, if you've got questions, there's a few here. Meg, you've been talking a while. Let me start. Maybe I can start answering some of these questions. So somebody asked if doing the intensive versions of some of the sequences give you an advantage to med school or in your med school application. So med schools are most impressed with you finding the level of challenge and engagement that's right for you. There's nothing that is going to impress them in and of itself. What's going to impress them is you talking about why you made the choices that you did and what you got out of them, right? So don't over, and as Megan just mentioned, don't overextend yourself in the classroom. The med schools need to know that you know physics. They don't need to know that you did the 2800 accelerated physics. They need to know that you know sort of basic physics, right? And you're going to show them that by doing the course that's appropriate for your either your course of study, your school, or your knowledge base, right? So really pay attention to doing things that are, you know, challenging yourself, but not taking on too much, and don't take on something that's really more than you can handle because you think that that's going to give you some advantage down the road. It really won't. Another person asked, since the first year organic chemistry track begins in the spring, does this leave the first year fall open to take another class, and will the general chemistry lab still be in the first semester? So you need to take the placement exam to figure out what the appropriate track of chemistry is to do. And so if you take the exam and you get tracked straight into Orgo, then yes, your fall is when you could take the general chemistry lab, which you have to take even if you do place directly into Orgo. So you could take general chemistry lab in the fall and then start the Orgo sequence in the spring. That spring fall organic sequence is just for first years who place into it. There's also for just somebody else asked if, you know, if you're a transfer student or a combined plan student and you're trying to pick up prerequisites, there is an Orgo 1 that you can just start in the fall. So someone wrote, if I am planning to not take a gap year before medical school, when would be the best time to take the MCAT? And are there test prep resources on campus? Okay, so we can certainly talk to you about that, what the sequence is. I will tell you that every single first year is going straight through to medical school, and 90% of you change your mind. So just let that percolate a little bit in your brain. We are here to help you whatever your path is, but we hope that everybody will go through their time at Columbia with a bit of an open mind to what the various pressures are that you need to think about as you're preparing, and find the timeline that's really right for you. And like I said, if it's straight through, it's straight through, but a very small percentage of you end up deciding that that's actually the best path. So for anybody applying to medical school, you need to take the MCAT no later than May of the year that you're applying. So if you're going straight through to medical school, that would be the May, preparing for it maybe in the spring of your junior year, taking it no later than May of your junior year, because then you'll apply the summer between junior and senior year, interview during your senior year, and then start medical school. Also, just so you know, med schools all start in the summer. So if you go that route, you have a very short senior year summer because you'll be starting med school in July or early August. And then, you know, if you're going to apply to do a gap year, that's no later than May of your senior year, because you'd be applying right after your senior year. Will this slideshow be available online?
Yes.
Is the slideshow available or just the recording?
Well, the recording, which
Yeah, the recording, which shows the slides, but we don't post the actual PDF of the slides, but the recording is there, and the recording has all the slides in it.
But as we said earlier, the pre-med handbook is a great resource, which will cover all the same material that we covered today.
Yeah, so the next question is from somebody who's an incoming transfer. So some of you are incoming transfers or incoming combined plan students. Your main advising dean is going to help you sort of figure out what you've done and where to start with the sequence. So at a lot of you may come in and you've already done bio, because many colleges start their first years with bio. In that case, it would be appropriate to start with our general chemistry. If you've already done general chemistry, you could start with bio or Orgo. It just depends. The one thing we do suggest is that you don't try to do Orgo and bio in the same year. We see that not go well more than we see it go well. So I would say if you're coming in and you've already done GChem, choose whether you're going to do bio this year or Orgo, one or the other. Semester of intro bio. Yeah. So this person asked about taking Orgo and bio together. We recommend that you do not try to do Orgo and bio together. You've got plenty of time to figure these things out, but we wouldn't recommend doubling those up. And do most Columbia students take organic chemistry in their junior year? If they started with GChem in their first year and then bio in their sophomore year, then yeah, Orgo is the next thing that they do in their junior year. And then usually people take physics either alongside GChem or alongside bio. That's most typical. Is there a way to know the med schools that do not accept the IB credits for chemistry? Funny you should ask this question, since we've just been talking about this today.
Well,
Would
I
you be-
think, the best way to understand medical school prerequisite requirements is through their individual websites. And also when you get a little closer to applying, there is a guide called the Medical School Admissions Requirements Guide that is produced by the AAMC for allopathic medical schools. And it lists, a lot of things about each individual medical schools, and they have nice charts, which will help you to understand the prerequisite requirements at each of the schools, sort of in a user-friendly way. But right now, all of the individual medical schools post that information on their website.
Yeah. And the thing about the AP credit is at most departments at Columbia force you to go on and take advanced courses before you get that AP credit anyhow. So the best thing to do is to just start with the courses that you need to be taking, and then figure out the AP credit and where it belongs in terms of med schools a little bit farther down the line.
There's another question in the chat about the IB exam for calculus, and we really recommend that you talk with your advising dean about this. And again, also reference the academic planning guide for advanced, sort of standing. And if you need to talk to the math department, they'll also be available at the Academic Resources Fair during new student orientation. And that's a great opportunity if you have very specific questions about placement and those kinds of things to check in with the faculty there in the math department. So we'll skip that one. So can students in CC do research from Cs and vice versa? Yes, absolutely. We have college students working in engineering labs. We have engineering students working in biology labs. The research world is completely open to you. We have lots of undergraduates who are working uptown at the health sciences campus. We have students working with the Cancer Center. We have students working at the New York State Psychiatric, Institute, which is affiliated with Columbia Uptown. So lots and lots of opportunities.
Someone asked what majors are most compatible with the pre-med track. We addressed this at the very beginning. Any major at all is compatible with the pre-med track. The only difference is some majors have requirements that are the same as pre-medical requirements, but in terms of compatibility, in terms of studying something, you should really feel free to choose whatever you most want to study.
So another question about research and when is it most appropriate to sort of get involved? Students can get involved at any time. It's not super common for first semester students to join research labs. I think, as we said earlier, we'd really like you to get settled academically and socially before taking that on. I'm not saying that no one's ever done it, but it wouldn't be super common. And again, whether it's down here on campus here or uptown at the medical center, it doesn't really matter. Just, thinking about your own life and your commute up there and that sort of thing. So it's not to say, oh, the medical center only takes juniors or seniors. That's not true. They don't have any guidance in that way. But again, we would really encourage you in your first term to just get settled academically and think about research maybe that coming summer or thereafter.
Will med schools accept credits earned during study abroad programs? So they accept that you went to a study abroad program and the courses there are going to contribute to your progress towards your degree at Columbia, et cetera. Med schools can be a little picky about what they accept in terms of the prerequisites that they want to see. So it can be difficult to go do organic chemistry in another country and have that count. Med schools tend to want to see the courses taken at a US-based institution, but also we believe that study abroad is a chance to go and explore the culture and politics and social environment of that country and not do something that's kind of the same the world over, right? Organic chemistry is the same the world over. You don't need to go to Spain or Portugal to learn organic chemistry. So we encourage you to do the prereqs while you're at Columbia and use your study abroad to explore the country. You can do science and research while you're studying abroad, but in terms of actually completing prerequisite courses for medical schools, we would recommend that you do them, when you're in the US.
Yeah. So when can students begin to meet with a pre-med advisor? As we said earlier, right now we're focused on our current crop of medical school applicants, but we're once school starts and you get settled into classes, we're happy to meet with you, and you can schedule an advising appointment with us through the advising portal that you use to schedule with your advising dean, and you'll be able to choose pre-health advising and find our schedules. So anytime in the beginning of the semester is a good time.
If you take second semester general chemistry, are there 1 semester advanced chemistry classes that are common to take? Biochem is a course that can sometimes fill in those extra credits. If you're needing to round out credits, if you jump ahead in the courses. And yeah, there's a physical chemistry course. There are some advanced chemistry courses that you could take to round out those chemistry credits.
So the next question is about pros and cons of taking courses over a summer at a community college. For example, do medical schools negatively view that? And the answer to that question is depends. It depends on the reason that you're doing that, and it potentially also depends on the medical school to a certain extent. Generally speaking, we usually discourage you from planning to take your pre-medical courses outside of Columbia, because we think that we offer a really great, rich science education here, and we want the medical schools to see that you've completed things here. And also your summers are a great time for other things, right? Like a research experience or a clinical volunteering experience, or an internship of some sort. So when you take things full, the full academic year, you don't get a break, and you miss some of those opportunities to be involved in something else. But I think, yeah, it's to a certain extent, the medical schools want to see that you're challenging yourself here and that you're able to do the work, sort of at, a strong research university like Columbia. But I'll just temper that by saying there are sometimes reasons that a student would take a summer class, maybe because they are studying abroad and they want to, just complete one course over the summer so that they can enable themselves to study abroad. Or sometimes our engineers who have a very, very full schedule maybe need to take organic chemistry or want to take organic chemistry outside because of the other requirements that they have. And that might, mean that because they have so much science in their schedule already, the medical school is not going to necessarily think you're trying to lighten your load by taking something outside of Columbia. So, so again, it depends, and those are decisions that you would want to consult an advisor about, right? As you're making them.
And it's not like the med schools see a class taken at your local state college as somehow lesser than a Columbia class. But that's the type of thing, again, if you're going to take, and we say it in the handbook too, if you're going to take summer courses, consult with one of us first, and we can talk you sort of through what the good options would be and listen to what the issues are for you and give you good advice based on what's right for you. Is it usually more difficult for C students to be pre-med, or is that a misconception? I know we have lots of C students. I mean, the engineering curriculum is challenging, because it's, a lot of science all the time. It's not that the college is easy by any means, but you have more variety, right? You've got a class you're reading poetry for, and you've got a class that you're doing science for. The engineering curriculum is sort of all science all the time. But that being said, we have lots and lots of engineering applicants every year in our applicant pool. So it's a great preparation for medicine, and the med schools see it that way. According to the classes based on track 1, there's going to be 1 year where you're taking a double science. Yeah, we generally see people do sometimes GChem, general chemistry and physics together, or bio and physics together are the 2 most common pairings. As we said, we just recommend that you don't double up bio and orgo and do those 2. But yeah, taking more than 1 science class in a semester is a good thing to do, especially for college students where, that might not be as common.
Okay, I think we covered the calc,
Yeah.
You should be consulting with your advisor about that.
So this is a question about taking intro bio before bio 3500. So I would say, yes, you should just start with the intro to bio course in general and not be doing the advanced, you're not going to be doing advanced courses. The thing about 3500 though, is it's a course that you take to give you credit for doing research in an actual lab, about a faculty member who's running a research lab. It's just a way to get credit for doing sort of independent research, meaning, like I said, research with a faculty member in their actual lab. But yeah, before I would be thinking about taking 3500 research credit, you should be taking the intro to bio first.
Well, and also, like, it wouldn't be something that student in their first year would do, because they you know, likely haven't been connected to a lab yet.
Yeah.
Before we keep going, I think we skipped over a question. Someone said, do pre-med students typically have the time to explore non-medical extracurricular interests in addition to their medical activities?
Yes, 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 absolutely. And very,
absolutely.
very much encouraged.
Be a whole
Um,
person.
Yes, we want you to be a musician, be committed to your cultural identities, play sports, do whatever you love. Absolutely. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. We talked about scheduling an appointment with a pre-health advisor once the semester starts. It's just somebody asking about major choice, again, this is something that you should feel free to explore, and think about what you most want to study. Any major is compatible with taking the core and the pre-med requirements. Okay. I'm just skipping through some of these that we've already addressed. How important is being published in research for medical school? Exposing yourself to research, learning what it takes to create new knowledge in some discipline is an important piece of it. There's just so much variability in terms of how different labs produce publications. Med schools want to hear about what you got out of an experience. And if that involved really like digging in and helping with a publication, that's great. That's an experience that you got that you can talk about, but it's not anything that's required. If you're 5th or 6th or 7th on a masthead for a publication, it's really going to be what you got out of it, right? You could have made a couple of graphs for that publication and gotten credit, or you could have really done something significant. So the med schools don't gauge it based upon whether or not you got named in a publication. They are going to want to hear about your research and what you got out of it. Whether or not that includes a publication is not essential. It's what you got out of the experience.
Okay, so there's one here talking about the academic planning guide for Cs that's saying that you can take intensive orgo in the fall. I think maybe that's not been updated, but because the chemistry department has changed that sequencing, it used to be a fall, spring, and now it's spring, fall. So I think that's just something that hasn't been updated.
Someone asked which classes are necessary for the MCAT prep. Go into our pre-med handbook that there's a link for in the chat. We've got a graph there that shows what's required for med schools, what is suggested for med schools, and then what you need for MCAT prep. So you can look at that in a pre-med handbook.
The question here is, do I need, if I take intensive organic chemistry, do I still need to take a general chemistry lab? And the answer is yes, you do.
Yeah.
And then it asks about shadowing opportunities. So we don't have like a formal shadowing program that we facilitate, but as I mentioned earlier, there's so many like clinical volunteering opportunities, and generally speaking, the best way to obtain shadowing is first by becoming a volunteer, and sort of getting all the clearances that you need to be in a clinical space. And that might include HIPAA training and a physical and a TB test and all of those things. And then, you're going to be meeting healthcare providers while you're in that space, and that those opportunities can often lead to shadowing. So I think we've gotten through most of the questions, and we want to be mindful of your time. We're excited to get to know you once you get on campus. And as I said, any of the questions that you have, we work very closely with the advising deans here in the Berick Center for Student Advising. So any question that you have can be, about your academic preparation, can be filtered through them. And if they have questions, they'll reach out to us, right? We're just down the hall. So, just feel really assured that they know everything that we know. We train them and make sure that they understand what the, pre-med curriculum looks like and what students need to do. And they're going to be really best equipped to talk with you about that first semester schedule, which is really what's most important at this juncture. So good luck. Thanks for tuning in, and
enjoy the rest of your summer, and
you.
good luck moving to New York if you're coming from far away.